Welcome to A Drink of Wisdom with Jay Wise. I'm your interim host, Cody Ward. Thank you for spending some of your time with us tonight. Once again, I'm not Nathan Drinkard. Our poor friend is snowed in up in Virginia still. Poor guy still digging out, so doesn't have power. It's a complete mess. But we are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, you name it. We're there. Search Drink of Wisdom, like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. You guys are tech savvy. You know how this works. So what's going on, Jay? You're stuck with me yet again, twice in a week.
Yeah, man. It's tough out there in northern VA. Some people have blamed Glenn Youngkin for the bad weather. It's interesting because he's not even governor yet. But anyway, it's great to be with you. Got a packed show today. It's so packed, in fact, that we had to drop the Rapids. But
I know we got five.
We got Fab Five coming at you, and we're not gonna burn the time out like they did when they didn't have one at one time. But yeah, man, great to be with you, brother.
All right, man. Well, let's go on into it then. Episode 30, we are talking NFL Week 18 playoff pictures coming in to, picture. So we'll take a look at that. We have the college football playoff preview. We have a literal clown show down in Jacksonville. We'll tell you about that coming up. And also, we're going to look at the new madness with the NBA COVID policy in the latest update. But we're going to begin on sort of a COVID topic, sort of an MVP topic. The NFL MVP race, of course, getting pretty close to coming down. But Aaron Rodgers, one of the candidates, was kind of once again in the news. He was in the news, if you remember, a couple months ago when he tested positive for COVID and the vaccination stuff had come out. Well, one of the AP writers that votes for MVP, one Hub Arkush, hope I said that right, over there in Chicago, he said he would not vote for Aaron Rodgers because he was, quote, a jerk. Arkush pretty much made the case that he thinks Aaron Rodgers is a huge jerk to his team, and regardless of his on-field performance, that he should not be MVP. So, Jay, before we get into the actual MVP race, what do you think about this man's comments and Aaron Rodgers calling him a bum? It's been a fun exchange.
I do have to say, in all fairness, I was just looking up some stuff on this. Mr. Hub or whoever this guy is, he has since came out and apologized, probably because he was getting smoked in the internet world. So you have that going on. But anyway, that's easy to do. Anytime you say something that's quote unquote incorrect, you have the apology tour, which a lot of times doesn't really help you. But anyway, to the comments he made, I think it's a joke, and I really have trouble with people, and I don't want to disparage people based on what their family chooses to name them and all. But when you have joke names, like I just have trouble taking you seriously right off the bat. Like, I mean, if your name like Hub, like to me, Aaron Rodgers almost did him a favor. Like, I don't know, like Bum would almost be an improvement of a name at this point. It's almost like ESPN has a bum on their network named Booger. I mean, what's the difference at this point? So it's that's a really low cheap way to start this thing. Looking at somebody's name like, well, it's of course they had a idiotic opinion, but no, this is I'd like to know if you don't like Aaron Rodgers, I think that's perfectly within your right. I've said that the guy's a diva. We've seen it, and I could see this coming. Some of this, stuff has transpired all the way back to when Green Bay drafted Jordan Love. Like you could see, like you knew then that like there was, he was showing himself a little bit, and then we saw it this offseason. That stuff like percolates a little bit more, and he's like, I don't want to play no more. Like screw y'all, I want to be traded. All this crap. But he ends up coming back. He has another great season. We'll get into the MVP nuts and bolts of it. But for someone to say that he should be disqualified because you quote unquote don't like him because you think he's a bad guy, you think he's a jerk. Can we like put this into perspective, and can we get an opinion from Mr. Hub about I don't know, Antonio Brown? Could we get an opinion on him? Could we get an opinion on Henry Ruggs? How about Vontaze Burfict? There's a hope. It's the NFL is not. You look at the NFL and there's a lot of model citizens running around. That's why you have Walter Payton Man of the Year nominees, but not everybody's a Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee. So like to sit here and say, oh, I'm not voting for him because he's a bad guy. I mean, maybe that is so, but there's nothing like criminal there about Aaron Rodgers. Now maybe you want to sit here and say, well, he's not vaccinated and he mischaracterized his vaccination status. Like, oh, well, maybe that's criminal. No, it's not. Stop. So, I think it was obviously his comments were they're not something we should take seriously. We should laugh at him. I think if he legit believes he was wrong and then comes out and retracts what he said, and now I think we should look at that in some bends. But at the same time, like, you said what you said, and I think it's a great possibility that the only reason he's retracting what he said is because he's getting smoked for it.
Yeah, he was tore up pretty good, and the apology was pretty profuse. And it's weird in the modern quote unquote cancel culture. It's like usually it's kind of the other way around. Like, people like Aaron Rodgers, the ones always doing the apologizing and kind of groveling against the perceived norm. Where in this case, our friend here had to kind of really rein it back. And yeah, I mean, it's his argument really. He literally said, "I think he's a big jerk," and a bad person, because that is the whole idea with COVID, and it has been for a long time now, is that COVID is just simply a litmus test. Or if you're a good person, do you wear the 3 masks? Do you get the 4 vaxes? Do you do what you're told? Do you lock yourself in your basement when you're told? And if you don't, well, then you're just a terrible person. And there's some line here, because obviously, say you have let's say Aaron Rodgers have an MVP season and then he got caught some domestic abuse scandal or something like that. I mean, clearly, then yes, you're not going to vote for somebody for MVP if they have a horrible off the field thing. But what this is just, I don't personally like him. And it's like, okay, well, I don't care if you don't like him. That's not what we're asking you. I mean, if your argument doesn't have anything to do with criminality, like you said, then what are we talking about here? What's the crux? But that's how society treats COVID now. It is a litmus test. And if you do the right things, you're a good person, and COVID will leave you alone. Like I say, it's a pagan god coming to visit and uncleanse the unwashed masses. If you don't do it, you're told.
COVID never harmed anyone that got vaccinated. Did you know that?
Right. It's never, no one that does what they're told gets it. That's the thing. And what we're seeing now, the new wave, which we'll talk about more later, too. But we're seeing that basically at this point, you're just kind of get it if you're going to get it. I mean, it's just, getting around it at this point. So yeah, every day this whole argument around the vaccinated unvaccinated thing gets more trivial, more moot, if you want to call it that. But yeah, this is ridiculous. And if this kind of thing starts to permeate more, then they're not thinking about just not letting the press, because again, this is all the press votes for this. It's the AP MVP. We always just call it the NFL MVP award, but it's not players voting on this. It's not coaches voting on this. It's media members. And if they're going to start interjecting their personal feelings into these awards, then the NFL may have to come up with something different.
I could, by the way, to that point, I don't think this is unusual when you talk about a mainstream publication, but I don't think the AP is what I call, a centrist publication.
No,
you know what I'm saying? I would venture to say they're a little left wing, which would, take that what you will.
Right. And, for what it's worth, by the way, with Rodgers, he did miss one game. They lost at 13-7 to the Chiefs, and old Jordan Love started. And all they've ever done since then is go 13-3 and lock up the NFC completely. So did he really even hurt his team that much, Mr. Hub? I don't think so. But let's go ahead and look at the rest of the field, right? Because I think you and me would agree that Rodgers is sort of the front runner right now with what he's done with their record and all that. Again, they are the number 1 seed. It's locked. It's set. They could all take a vacation this weekend against Detroit. They're still going to it's going through Lambeau, right? 3,900, whatever passing yards, 35 touchdowns, and just 35-4, man. It's crazy. But there are other guys that looks like they have a case, Tom Brady, Jonathan Taylor, Cooper Kupp. Any of these guys do it for you, or someone else maybe?
To me, I think the only person that has, a strong case would be Tom Brady. And I think it's pretty close for the most part. But I think the fact, and we see this, I know it's a real simplistic way to do these things, but if you look at history, for a lot, several occasions that best player, best team, that's a good place to start. And I mean, you look at the AFC, the best teams over there are at 11-5. It's been just, one of those seasons where the AFC's had a crazy amount of parity. You had 12 teams allegedly in the hunt last week or something ridiculous. If I swear, I see Denver in the hunt a couple weeks ago when they're not. They're just not in the hunt. Stop. Same thing with Cleveland. Those teams are not hunting anything. But you have the AFC, you take that and like no one in the AFC to me. I mean, Jonathan Taylor, he's in it. But I mean, the Colts still there's still a chance that they could miss the playoffs if they don't handle business on Sunday. So you have that going on. But I think if you go past Jonathan Taylor, I mean, the Cooper Kupp stuff is like, I mean, it's nice. He's having an amazing season, but the wide receiver thing for me is difficult because Cooper Kupp's doing nothing without Matthew Stafford throwing in the ball. And Matthew Stafford, he has tailed off, in my view, the second half of the season. But he's not, this ain't some situation years ago where DeAndre Hopkins was, catching passes from any Tom, Dick, or Harry with 2 arms and 2 legs, So if you had that kind of situation going on, then, maybe you'd have a case for a wide receiver, but that's not what we see here. So to me, it is Aaron Rodgers, it is Tom Brady. And I think the Green Bay Packers having the top seed, and you do have an example of what they look like without Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love. He was nothing special in that game. So you have that going on. You also, when you look at Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, you look at what they have. You look at their requisite weapons. We've seen Tom Brady for the now. I know things have fallen apart lately for them on the injury front, but
very much so.
But when they started, you had a situation where you had Mike Evans, you had Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski, Leonard Fournette. The list goes on and on. To me, Tom Brady's weapons vastly superior to what Aaron Rodgers said. Aaron Rodgers does have Devontae Adams, probably the best receiver in football. I think we can probably say that at this point. And he does have a very nice tandem at running back with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. But outside of that, I mean, when you have Alan Lazard, Valdez-Scantling, Mercedes Lewis, dare I say, I mean, those names just don't compare to the Godwins and the ABs, I guess, well, I mean, we know AB ain't around no more, but you get what I'm saying. And Gronk,
right,
they just don't compare. So I think Aaron Rodgers has done a little bit more with a little bit less. And we've also seen recently what Tom Brady has looked like without all of his requisite weapons. If you just take a gander at that Saints game a couple weeks back, when things really went haywire, it wasn't pretty. You also look at the New York Jets game last week. I mean, I get it. And people want to, just, lay out the red carpet for the guy for a nice little 90-yard comeback drive to win a game. Well, I mean, why are we coming back against the Jets? Like, explain that to me. So that's where I'm at. I think both guys have a case, but I think when you look at Green Bay already locking up the number 1 seed, Aaron Rodgers, the numbers are off the charts. Tom Brady's probably got him a little edge here and there. But the thing you mentioned, you talk about 35-4. I saw a stat earlier where I think he's got 3 seasons now, assuming that he stays at 4 interceptions, to where he's going to have like more than 500 passing attempts with like 4 interceptions or less, which is just astounding. And I don't think no one's ever done that. No one's ever done that once, is what the statistics said. So all things considered, I do think he's the MVP, despite what, how you feel about his medical decisions that are his and his only.
Yeah, pretty well said. I would absolutely agree. I think in a more statistic comparison, you look at Rodgers versus Brady. I mean, Rodgers has not attempted as many. Brady leads the league in attempts by a mile. He's at 682 attempts.
Right.
Rodgers is only at 513. And yet their numbers, I mean, Brady has 1,000 more yards, but the touchdowns are pretty close. Rodgers has thrown 8 less picks. Their completion percentage is pretty close. And like you said, the efficiency with Rodgers, 500 pass attempts. I mean, the other quarterbacks are Burrow, Ryan Cousins, Big Ben, Dak, Matt Stafford, Trevor Lawrence, Derek Carr, Josh Allen, Herbert, Mahomes, Brady. I mean, it's the cream of the crop, right? I mean, pretty much all your star quarterbacks are up in that list, besides like Kyler Murray, over 500 attempts, and all of them have at least 7 or 9 interceptions in the case of Cousins, Big Ben, and then everyone else has at least 10 or more. And here's Rodgers with 4. And I think too, like you were kind of mentioning, the Bucs have had some bad games. I mean, Green Bay has had legitimately one bad game with Rodgers starting. They got absolutely destroyed week 1. That was a weird, like, neutral site game they had to play because of the hurricane, and it was all odd, and it got changed last minute and whatever. And then they lost the game without Rodgers because he's terrible and bad and got COVID. And then
the close
the only game they lost was the Minnesota game.
Yeah,
the 3-point loss to the Vikings. So it's like the consistency has just been unmatched. The only player I would really really say has a good argument is Jonathan Taylor. Like you said, there are some precedents for running backs winning the award. And I really think if you took Jonathan Taylor off the Colts, they wouldn't be nearly as good. I think that they would. I don't think Carson Wentz would carry the load. I don't think they have the offensive weapons out at the wide receiver and
Right.
tight end to keep up with the rest of the league. I mean, when Jonathan Taylor runs for over 100 yards, they've won every game. I think they're 8 out of their 9 games they've won. He ran for 100 yards. Like this past weekend was the first time he had 100 yards. He had like 104, and they didn't actually win the game. So it's one of those things where they pace it through him. He's got a ton of yards. He doesn't have as many attempts as Derrick Henry, like was on pace for before he got hurt. 18 touchdowns. He's only lost the ball twice, 2 fumbles and 317 rush attempts. And he also has 2 receiving touchdowns. He's first in the league by a mile in the running back stats. I mean, I get that a quarterback is usually going to win the award, but you ever want to look at a running back, I think Jonathan Taylor would have an argument. But yeah, Cooper Kupp, just a receiver, man, it's got to be something just unbelievably incredible. And it's hard to win MVP when you have Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, Von Miller, Matt Stafford, list goes on. And like we already kind of hit the Brady thing. So yeah, I think it's going to be Aaron Rodgers as well, but Jonathan Taylor would be a close second for me.
And it would, just to close out that you brought up Derrick Henry, it would be something to see what he would have done had he have stayed healthy and the
Right.
Titans had been the number 1 seed. That would have been he would have a really compelling case as well.